The events of Shiloh 2025 have left the Nigerian Christian community buzzing with questions, speculations, and intense public debate.
Shiloh 2025, breaking new ground. Amen.
In what has now become one of the most talked about moments in the recent history of Living Faith Church, the reappearance of Bishop Thomas Aremu on the Shiloh altar shocked many viewers and stirred new controversies. But even more shocking than his return was the loud and symbolic absence of Bishop David Abioye, the man who served as the long-time vice president of the Living Faith Church worldwide, a man who sat beside Bishop David Oyedepo for decades, and a man whose loyalty and presence shaped the identity of the church for over 40 years. Shiloh 2025 was expected to be a season of spiritual renewal.
You wake up in the morning to a brand new world.
Quickly became a moment that exposed deeper leadership tensions that many had suspected but could not confirm. Why was Bishop Aremu reinstated to preach at Shiloh, just 1 year after both he and Bishop Abioye were retired? Why did Bishop Abioye, once considered the most trusted deputy in the entire ministry, remain absent and unacknowledged? And what message was Bishop Oyedepo sending by bringing back Thomas Aremu and refusing to bring back David Abioye? These questions have shaped the central debate surrounding Shiloh 2025, and they form the foundation of this voiceover. Background: the double retirement of 2024. To understand what happened in 2025, we must begin with the dramatic events of October 2024. This was the month Bishop David Oyedepo, during his 70th birthday celebration, officially announced the retirement of two of his most senior and respected clergy members, Bishop David Abioye, the vice president of the ministry, and Bishop Thomas Aremu, one of the earliest pastors and long-serving leaders of the organization. The announcement fell like a thunderbolt across the Living Faith family. These were not ordinary pastors. They were foundational pillars, men who had walked with Oyedepo from the early days of the ministry when Winners Chapel was still struggling to take shape. The official explanation provided by Bishop Oyedepo was that the retirements were in line with the church's internal retirement policies.
Just to show you before we go to the blessing, this is our admitted policy, 1998, reviewed 2001. This is Administrative Policy Handbook 2003. This is the mandate 2012 and reviewed this year after 12 years. We have, by divine orchestration, operated by divine order, which has kept this ministry on her feet till tomorrow.
He insisted that age, longevity of service, and structural renewal required the two senior leaders to take a bow and allow a new generation to step forward. But almost immediately, the reactions that followed from members and observers showed that the congregation was not convinced. Some felt something deeper was happening behind the scenes. The official explanation did little to calm the growing suspicion that the retirements were strategic, not administrative. The suspicion intensified when both retired bishops were absent from Shiloh 2024. Their complete absence, with no acknowledgement, no farewell address, and no visible sign of honor, raised fears of internal restructuring far more complicated than the public was being told. People wondered whether the double retirement was connected to leadership realignment, succession planning, or possible internal disagreements. The atmosphere was tense, and even though the church remained silent, conversations outside the church walls only grew louder. Post-retirement outcomes, different paths. The months that followed the retirement announcement revealed a shocking divergence between the two retired bishops. They both stepped down at the same time, but what happened after retirement made it clear that their situations were not the same. Bishop Abioye's new ministry. Early in 2025, Bishop David Abioye made a bold move that changed everything. He launched his own ministry, Living Word Conquerors Global Assembly.
On this final note, and to the glory of God, this assembly with the name Living Word Conquerors Global Assembly is hereby inaugurated this day, Sunday, 4th May 2025.
For some, it was a shocking departure. For others, it felt like a natural next step for a man who had given over 40 years of his life to building someone else's vision. His new ministry was interpreted differently by different groups. Some saw it as an act of independence, a healthy expression of his calling after decades of loyal service. Others saw it as a quiet separation, a sign that the relationship between him and the living faith leadership had strained more than anyone realized. A third group believed it was simply a necessity. After being retired without warning, without public honor, and without clarity, he had no choice but to continue fulfilling his pastoral calling outside the structure of LFC. Whatever the interpretation, one thing was clear. Abioye had stepped into his own spiritual identity, and this move immediately redefined his relationship with the system he had served for most of his life. It also signaled to outsiders that his retirement was not as simple as the official narrative stated. Bishop Aremu's loyalty and return. While Abioye was carving out a new path, Bishop Thomas Aremu took a very different direction. Despite being retired at the same time, Aremu publicly stated his commitment to remain under the living faith family.
And those that be planted in the house of the Lord will still bring forth fruit even in old age, even after retirement. I don't have a church, and I cannot have a church, because God has not infused me with the capacity to do so. This is my church. Even after retirement, I shall remain in the winner's family.
He made it known that retirement did not mean departure. He continued to identify with the ministry, continued to honor Bishop Oyedepo, and maintained his position within the family structure. His absolute loyalty became the defining characteristic of his post-retirement period. This loyalty was soon rewarded. A few months after being retired, Bishop Aremu was recalled to pastor the Living Faith Church in Ibadan. This immediate recall raised questions, because according to the official explanation, these men were retired due to policy. How then did one retiree return while the other was cut off entirely? The recall made it clear that retirement was not purely a policy decision. It was selective. The true turning point came when Bishop Thomas Aremu appeared at Shiloh 2025. His reappearance on the Shiloh altar was a moment that electrified the LFC community. Many believed he had been sidelined permanently. Instead, he was honored and given a seat of spiritual authority once again. His return marked the beginning of a new narrative, one that interpreted his loyalty as proof of deeper alignment with Oyedepo's vision and future plans. Absence speaks louder than presence. And while Aremu's presence was shocking, Abioye's absence was deafening. The Shiloh 2025 shockwave. Shiloh 2025 will go down in the history of Living Faith Church as one of the most defining and controversial gatherings in the ministry's recent memory. For many who tuned in from around the world, the atmosphere was electric, the expectations were high, and the anticipation for the yearly prophetic event was intense. But the real shock did not come from the sermons, the prayers, or the prophetic declarations. It came from the faces seen on the altar, and even more importantly, from the faces that were not seen. Aremu on the Shiloh altar again.
Put your hands together for the Lord and please be seated. It's a great privilege to be asked to deliver this word of life in this holy assembly, and I'm not taking it for granted. I appreciate my Father in the Lord for this privilege, and I believe out of the much we have learned, few will be delivered to enforce your visitation.
When Bishop Thomas Aremu stepped onto the Shiloh altar, many viewers froze. This was the same man who had been retired in October 2024, the same man whose absence from Shiloh 2024 had raised questions about his standing within the ministry. Yet here he was, fully reinstated, preaching powerfully, speaking with authority, and embraced warmly by the congregation. His appearance communicated several messages at once. First, it signaled reconciliation. Whether public or private, something had shifted. The man who was asked to step aside in 2024 had been pulled back into active ministry. Second, it signaled restoration. Aremu was not given a silent role. He was not placed backstage. He was restored to visibility, restored to authority, and restored to a position of honor that only a select few occupy during Shiloh. For many members of the Living Faith Church, this return was strategic. His loyalty had paid off. His alignment had opened the door for his reinstatement. His presence on the altar was not by accident. It was intentional, calculated, meaningful. And it immediately sparked conversation. If Aremu could return, why then did Abioye not return? Abioye's notable absence. The absence of Bishop David Abioye created a louder sound than any sermon preached that week. This was the man who sat beside Bishop Oyedepo for nearly 4 decades. the man who led the church in the founder's absence. The man respected globally for his discipline, his wisdom, and his unwavering commitment to the ministry. Yet during Shiloh 2025, not a single reference was made to him. Not a greeting. Not an acknowledgement. Not a video clip or a prayer of honor. Nothing. In a ministry that values hierarchy and celebrates loyalty, silence is rarely accidental. And so, his absence became the narrative. His absence became the headline. His absence became the loudest message of Shiloh 2025. Why was one reinstated while the other remained excluded? Why did the church find room for Aremu but not for the man who helped build the entire structure? These questions set the stage for deeper analysis. And from this moment, 4 major theories emerged in public discussions, each attempting to explain what happened behind the scenes and why Shiloh 2025 unfolded the way it did. 4 major theories behind Oyedepo's decision. Across social media, church forums, private WhatsApp groups, and Christian commentary platforms, 4 major theories began circulating. These theories do not claim to reveal the absolute truth, but they reflect the interpretations of thousands who watched the events unfold and tried to connect the dots. Theory 1. Fear of Aremu leaving to start his own ministry. The first theory suggests that Bishop David Oyedepo reinstated Thomas Aremu because he feared losing him. After the retirement in 2024, Abioye launched his own ministry. This move shocked many and created a ripple effect across the Nigerian Christian community. It instantly demonstrated that retired leaders were capable of starting fresh ministries and drawing large followings. The departure of such a senior figure already destabilized public perception. Many observers believe Oyedepo did not want a repeat of the Abioye situation. Aremu had already proven he had influence. If he too stepped out to start a ministry, the LFC structure could face even more fragmentation. Therefore, recalling Aremu, giving him a role, giving him visibility, and allowing him to preach at Shiloh was a strategic move to protect the ministry from further senior departures. It was, in essence, a reinforcement strategy. Keep the loyal ones close so they do not drift away. Theory 2. Rewarding steadfast loyalty. The second theory focuses on loyalty. Even after retirement, Aremu did not distance himself from the ministry. He did not plant a new church. He did not pull followers away. He did not challenge leadership. He remained within the structure, submitted to authority, and affirmed his loyalty to Bishop Oyedepo. In a ministry where honor and submission are highly valued, this kind of loyalty carries weight. Reinstating Aremu, therefore, becomes a symbolic compensation. It is a way of saying that loyalty is rewarded and that consistency in following the spiritual father yields restoration. It sends a message to other pastors: remain faithful and the system will honor you. To many members, this interpretation rings true. They see Aremu's return as evidence that the church values those who stay within its framework even in difficult seasons. Theory 3. A message to Abioye. The third theory deals with symbolism and messaging. Some observers believe that Oyedepo's decision to bring back Aremu serves as a subtle but powerful message directed toward Bishop Abioye. According to this interpretation, by reinstating Aremu and excluding Abioye, the founder is communicating that launching a new ministry after retirement is unnecessary and potentially disloyal. Reinstating Aremu becomes a contrast. It emphasizes that obedience keeps the door open, while perceived rebellion closes it. This theory frames the situation as a spiritual disciplining tool. By lifting one man and ignoring the other, the leadership demonstrates the consequences of the actions each man took after retirement. Whether intentional or not, the public sees this contrast clearly. The reinstatement did not happen in isolation, it happened in the shadow of Abioye's departure. Theory 4. Abioye's influence and succession politics. The fourth theory is the most discussed, the most sensitive, and the most political. It focuses on the future of leadership within the living faith church. The rise of Pastor David Oyedepo Jr., especially his increasing visibility at Shiloh 2025 and his key assignments at the Canaanland headquarters, signals a clear transition unfolding. Many observers believe that Bishop Oyedepo is strengthening the pathway for his son to take full leadership in the future. In this context, Abioye's influence becomes a factor. As a man deeply respected, with decades of credibility, powerful preaching authority, and a massive following, he naturally holds a kind of influence that could complicate a smooth father-to-son transition. Some believe that keeping Abioye within the system might challenge or overshadow the emergence of the next generation. Therefore, his absence from Shiloh 2025 is interpreted by many as strategic, removing obstacles to a family succession plan. Meanwhile, Aremu's return does not threaten this transition. His influence, while strong, does not rival the influence Abioye carries. Therefore, reinstating Aremu but excluding Abioye aligns with a strategy focused on long-term leadership management and structural stability. Wider context: succession and power structures in Nigerian mega-churches. To understand what is unfolding within Living Faith Church, it is necessary to zoom out and look at the wider context of succession and leadership transitions in Nigerian Pentecostal mega-churches. These institutions are not just religious organizations, they are multi-generational structures with massive followings, extensive assets, nationwide influence, and global outreach. Leadership within these churches is both spiritual and administrative, and the process of transition often reveals the priorities and philosophies of the founding fathers. Across the Nigerian Christian landscape, a pattern has emerged over the last 2 decades. Many mega-churches have begun to shift toward hereditary or family-based leadership transitions. This trend has been seen in several well-known ministries where founders gradually position their children to take on more visible roles, handle key assignments, or directly inherit the leadership mantle. The logic often presented is continuity, keeping the ministry in the hands of someone who understands the founder's vision, doctrine, and legacy. This pattern is not unique to Living Faith Church. It echoes across other major denominations and Pentecostal movements. In many cases, the transition starts subtly. The founder's child begins by leading midweek services, handling youth or satellite branches, taking charge of international outreaches, or representing the ministry in global missions. Over time, they step into more central roles, eventually becoming the de facto next in line even before any official announcement is made. The consolidation of authority before a generational transition is also a common pattern. Founders often ensure that internal restructuring takes place long before the next leader fully steps in. This can include redefining roles, adjusting leadership hierarchies, redeploying senior pastors, or quietly filtering the system to create an environment where the incoming heir can thrive without internal resistance. When we look at Shiloh 2025 through this lens, the actions within Living Faith Church begin to align with this wider national pattern. The heightened visibility of Pastor David Oyedepo Jr., especially his significant presence at the headquarters and his unique introduction during Shiloh 2025, reflects this trend. It suggests that the ministry may be moving toward a generational shift similar to what is being observed in other mega-churches. Furthermore, the reinstatement of Bishop Thomas Aremu and the exclusion of Bishop David Abioye may indicate a deliberate recalibration. The church may be ensuring that only leaders aligned with the founder's chosen succession direction remain close to the center. In this wider context, the events at Shiloh 2025 no longer appear isolated. They fit into a broader narrative of leadership consolidation, legacy protection, and structural realignment before a generational handover. What this means for the future of Living Faith Church. The implications of the events surrounding Shiloh 2025 reach far beyond a single program. They point to a future where the Living Faith Church may undergo significant organizational and spiritual restructuring. This transition could reshape the identity, influence, and leadership dynamics of one of Africa's largest Pentecostal movements. One major possibility is the consolidation of leadership around Pastor David Oyedepo Jr. His role at the Canaanland headquarters has expanded considerably over the past few years, and Shiloh 2025 amplified his visibility even further. As the face of the future, his presence at the center may gradually overshadow that of other senior pastors, particularly those from the founder's generation. This shift may lead to a gradual decline in the influence of non-family leaders at the highest levels of the church's hierarchy. Such repositioning is not without consequences. For decades, senior leaders like Bishop Abioye have been pillars of stability, doctrine, and mentorship within the church. Their absence creates a new leadership atmosphere, one that prioritizes generational continuity over decades-long relationships. While this may strengthen internal order around the founder's family, it may also raise questions about diversity of leadership, shared authority, and the role of long-standing ministers who contributed significantly to the growth of the movement. Another important factor is the long-term effect on unity and public perception. Many members worldwide viewed Living Faith Church as a ministry with strong internal loyalty among its leaders. The sudden retirement, the emergence of new ministries, and the unmistakable contrasts displayed at Shiloh 2025 could shape narratives about internal disagreements, leadership tensions, or silent reorganizations happening behind the scenes. These interpretations, whether accurate or not, influence how members and outsiders perceive the church's stability. Additionally, Bishop Abioye's new ministry, Living Word Conquerors Global Assembly, will inevitably contribute to these evolving narratives. His influence, credibility, and long-standing leadership within Living Faith Church guarantee that his ministry will attract attention. Some may see it as a natural extension of his calling, while others may interpret it as a sign of deeper structural changes within Living Faith Church. Either way, his existence outside the system adds complexity to the future of the ministry he once helped shape. In the coming years, Living Faith Church may experience a realignment where younger leaders, especially those within the founder's family circle, take on increasing responsibilities. This shift may lead to new directions in doctrine, administration, church planting strategies, and global outreach. The events of Shiloh 2025 suggest that the groundwork for such transition is already in motion. Shiloh 2025 has done more than spark conversations. It has revealed a deeper reshaping of leadership within Living Faith Church. The reinstatement of Bishop Thomas Aremu and the continued exclusion of Bishop David Abioye point toward an intentional direction, whether driven by strategic leadership decisions, succession planning, or internal restructuring. These events align with a broader pattern seen in Nigerian megachurches, where leadership transitions often involve consolidating authority around the founder's family and redefining roles within the senior leadership. The dynamics surrounding Shiloh 2025 highlight a ministry undergoing transformation, making decisions that will shape its identity for decades to come. The contrast between Aremu's return and Abioye's absence is not merely administrative. It is symbolic. It communicates a shift in alignment, priorities, and long-term vision. Whether these decisions were strategic or coincidental, they clearly mark a significant turning point in the evolution of the Living Faith Church. As Nigerian Christians, observers, and church analysts watch closely, one thing remains clear: the story is still unfolding. What happened at Shiloh 2025 will continue to influence conversations about leadership transitions, loyalty, succession politics, and the future of Pentecostal movements in Africa. The coming years will reveal the full meaning of these decisions, but for now, Shiloh 2025 stands as a defining chapter in the ongoing narrative of one of the country's most influential ministries.